Hopefully things are going well for you, and as for me, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and have some things to say about Sony, because I seem to be jumping in and hearing about how Sony's been sitting around here coming out with the slogan saying play has no limits, and then deciding to go to Business Insider or sending someone to Business Insider and having them say, oh yeah, the PlayStation 5 is going to have the best launch lineup. And yet, Ghost of Tsushima ended up having to save Sony's ass after, well, The Last of Us 2, and we all know, despite the praise from the critics, that came out a complete train wreck, especially on an international scale. When it comes to the Xbox Series X, yeah, that presentation didn't go so well from Microsoft, but hey, at least on the bright side, there was Phantasy Star Online 2 and Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, and I'm happy for that. That's great. And, of course, you do know that incident with the Halo Infinite, but however, on the bright side, they're doing more in terms of backwards compatibility, unlike Sony. And we haven't gotten any full detail in terms of that backwards compatibility for PlayStation 5. Now, we could go ahead and talk about PlayStation 5, the Future of Gaming presentation, which should have been the Road to PlayStation 5, but this presentation should have happened a long time ago when it came to the Road to PS5 presentation. But we got this PowerPoint presentation, and now you're finally deciding to come out with this Future of Gaming for PlayStation 5, and you're showing off the games and, of course, the system, and you never showed off the price. And I know Xbox did the same thing, but let's go ahead and talk about the games lineup on that Future of Gaming presentation for PlayStation 5. I seem to notice how the games most of the time are either safe as hell, T for teen, or rated E for everyone. I know rating pending for a lot of the games, but we could pretty much easily predict the age ratings for these games. It's pretty much easy to do that. Now, there are a few M-rated games, like Resident Evil 8 Village, for example. And we could talk about Grand Theft Auto 5, but that's a PlayStation 5 port. We could go ahead and proceed to chuckle about that from left to right, but however, let's not forget the fact that Digital Foundry did basically went through every single trailer shown off in that presentation, and none of that shit was not higher than 30 frames. Now, you seem to pretty much notice how I seem to be a little bit very nitpicky. Well, that's because Sony has been under heavy scrutiny. Because if you have seen my previous videos, let's toss aside that Walkman incident, we can talk about that strict international content policy, and of course that double standard about that content policy that showed up in The Last of Us 2. And oh yes, that strict international content policy that goes very hard on games that have mature themes, despite the age ratings, especially rated mature. Oh no, we decided to do that, and when Business Insider confronted on Sony, oh yeah, we did that for hashtag #MeToo and the live streams. Yeah, those are the two reasons we implemented that international content policy. And those were two really dumb excuses. Yeah, like I said, oh yeah, we're going to be blaming video games for the situations that led to #MeToo. I mean, what's going to happen when there's a mass tragedy or a mass shooting that happens? Are you going to update your policy and go anal on games like Doom and Mortal Kombat? I mean, that's kind of one thing you gotta have to keep a note about. And of course, that international content policy that has been going hard on games, especially the niche games market, and everybody in a worldwide scale got really frustrated with Sony, and everybody and more people picked up on it and was like, okay, what the hell is this? And they were like kind of like calling out Sony for being stupidly strict, and that's what that international content policy was. Now, of course, I know Sony's beginning to do that cross-play thing, and I already figured that to be the case, but are they going to be doing the cross-play for PlayStation 5? And that's the question. But I find it funny how you're getting called out for not allowing crossplay at all. You then decide to basically try and make yourself look better by implementing this strict international content policy to basically make yourselves look more like the good guy. Hey, we're making sure we're protecting the feelings. Like, that doesn't solve your crossplay issue. And remember, this happened back at 2018, where we have PlayStation 4s taking off. Not only that, but we have PlayStation 4 Pros taking off, and there's the PlayStation VR headset. Keep in mind of that. Like, we're really having that happen damn well near PlayStation 5 launch. I get that advertising is advertising, and you gotta do what you gotta do, you gotta say what you gotta say to get people sold into your product. But when you're coming out after the shit that you got caught in, coming out and saying, oh, for the players, or play has no limits, and then sending someone to Business Insider and saying how, oh yeah, the PlayStation 5 is going to have the best launch lineup ever, you're just essentially, like, talking shit. You're just coming out with this really cocky, hot take, and really, the entire gaming community, if not, they will be reminded of this. More and more people are going to get a hold of the track record, including that international content policy. People are going to be pretty much really concerned, especially when it comes to that strict international content policy. And people are going to be like, okay, so is the PlayStation 5 a family-friendly hardcore? Is it a hardcore platform, or is it a family-friendly platform? What's going on? Yeah, I wouldn't be going around here and just I wouldn't be bothering to implement a slogan at all, considering all the things that Sony did. All right, I wouldn't be coming out here and just slapping in slogans like, oh, play has no limits, or, oh yeah, for the players. Okay, but if you are really for the players, then you need to be more for the players. Meaning, nobody shouldn't have to be chastising you because you're too stubborn on that cross-platform play, or you're implementing this strict international content policy. Hell, that international content policy should have never happened in the first place if you really are for the gamers. And really, to be honest with you here, in terms of backwards compatibility, Microsoft has been doing more in terms of backwards compatibility, and you're still refusing to catch up with Microsoft on that. And that's kind of ridiculous. And you're expecting people to subscribe to PlayStation Now? I mean, not everybody's going to be up for cloud streaming. No. Because I'm going to go ahead and pretty much say it, the more Sony continues to slap that stupid slogan on, the more Sony starts to say, oh yeah, for the players, for the gamers, or play has no limits, or just going up and sending someone to Business Insider and saying, oh yeah, PlayStation 5 is going to have the best launch lineup than ever. People are going to basically catch on to your shenanigans and catch on to your track record, and are pretty much going to go ahead and bring up some things, such as, for example, the international content policy, because that's something you should be generally concerned about. And, yeah, when more and more players are more than willing to essentially jump in and then chime in and kind of go through the stuff that you pretty much did, and pretty much, for the sake of counteracting your claim for, oh yeah, for the players, or play has no limits, then basically you're not going to be able to get away using that slogan any more than Sony can ever get away with. Sony might as well just end up finally giving up the slogan and not having a slogan at all. I mean that I get that PlayStation is dominant, top leading, and just kicking ass and selling units and getting on the billions and becoming record breakers. But when your shenanigans becomes more and more into the spotlight, you're not going to look so good. So with that totally said, Sony should be careful flaunting these slogans such as for the gamers and oh, play has no limits, because more and more people are going to be willing to kind of like bring more spotlight into the situations that I did mention, especially the stuff that I did mention in my previous video talking about Sony. Oh yeah, and here's another thing about Sony. Alright, where was Sony 8 years? I mean, why is it that it had to take 8 years until Microsoft managed to get Phantasy Star Online 2 onto the West? Especially on Western Xbox Ones and Xbox Series X's alongside PCs in the West. Notice how in Japan, Phantasy Star Online 2 is on, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC. But you go over to the West, and then back in 2019, hey, we got Phantasy Star Online 2 finally happening in the West. On your Windows 10, on your Xbox One. And then when we're getting the new Genesis in Japan, PlayStation 4 and PC version. And if you want to go ahead and play the game on the Switch, you could use our cloud gaming platform to play Phantasy Star Online 2 on your Switch. And if you don't have a powerful enough PC, go ahead. We have our cloud services available for your underpowered PC, okay? We're not leaving anybody out, alright? We got cloud versions for your underpowered PC and your Switch version, alright? And when it's coming out in Japan on PlayStation 4 and PC. But on the West, when it comes to New Genesis, when New Genesis comes out in the West, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Windows 10. I mean, you can essentially pretty much tell that Microsoft stepped in, and that's why we're getting Phantasy Star Online 2 finally happening in the West. And yes, Phantasy Star Online 2 was bound to go to the West in the first place. Hell, Sega said so when Phantasy Star Online 2 was starting to release in Japan. Hey, we're gonna bring this game over here. It's been 8 fucking years. And thanks to Microsoft, we're getting Phantasy Star Online 2 in the West. And not only that, but Sega's getting us catched up for all the things that we have missed out on in the past 8 years of Phantasy Star Online 2. Basically, the thing for Sony right here, I get that you gotta do what you gotta do for the sake of advertising, and advertising is advertising, but really, you gotta be careful with your slogans, because there's gonna be a lot of things that people can dig up and hold up that could pretty much counteract your claim. Anyway, that is all I gotta go ahead and discuss on. That is all, and I will be looking forward to you in the next video or stream. Peace out. Have a good time.